Hello, Sprint. My name is Ben Chaykin. I'm a new media designer and artist based out of Seattle, Washington. And I am here alongside Kevin Jones, Senior Product Manager at NGINX, to present Now Arriving, an immersive installation experience powered by NGINX. Like I said, my name's Ben. I'm a new media artist and experience designer who works with digital and physical mediums to create creative technology. I use music, sound, light, robotics, kinetics, human interfaces, projection mapping, virtual reality, and digital media. At the end of the day, I work to create an invisible layer of magic using technology. The hope is to tell a story that we can all relate to, share, and remember. I live in Seattle, in a neighborhood called Capitol Hill. One day, about a year ago, during the depths of the pandemic, I went for a walk in my neighborhood. I was sad to see that the community was gone. The restaurants that I loved had no people in them. The venues that I loved didn't have any music. And my friends and the community that made up the neighborhood were nowhere to be found. The windows were boarded up. It was literally dark. There was very little light. And I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to use art and use technology to make a difference. So I called my friend Sky, who is an amazing 3D artist, and we worked together to collaborate on a window front art piece. What we created was Heliogram. Heliogram was a site-specific installation exhibited in February here in Seattle, Washington. Heliogram consists of 2 layers of video with a kinetic light in between. The light is mapped to the position of the sun in Sky's artwork, and also mapped to the color temperature of the sunrise and the moon. Heliogram's purpose was to bring light back to the community and give a message of hope, which was, even on the darkest nights, the sun will still rise. After Heliogram, I heard from F5. F5 approached me to scale this idea and this message in order to have more of an impact. They asked me, how can a modern app bring light back to the community? So I gathered a super diverse team of artists, technologists, designers, and the awesome team at F5 to come up with a brand new idea. So we started concepting. What are the things we want to share? What's the story we want to tell? I leaned on my friends at Photon Factory, which is a design studio here in Seattle, to help come up with these ideas. The theme was based around the idea of going somewhere new, experiencing things again, exploring again. So we wanted to ask, where do you want to go? And what we came up with was Now Arriving. Now Arriving is an immersive installation built out of a 24-foot shipping container. The point of it is to transport the viewer to beautiful, surreal worlds and then back again, in order to experience something new and take that with you wherever you go. The goal is to bring light back to the community, and it encourages people to dream and explore again. The meat of the piece exhibits Sky Iraheta's artwork. Sky makes these beautiful, surreal landscapes, mostly inspired by nature. Sky's made 6 different levels that you can travel to in Now Arriving based on your choice. She used Cinema 4D and Redshift render engine to create these pieces, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Now onto the hardware. We started with an empty shell of a 24-foot container, and we created 2 elevator bays in order to walk in and experience the installation. Each elevator has a button panel and electronically sliding doors, just like any other normal elevator. But that's where the normality stops. 3 of the walls, 270 degrees, are rear projected with Sky's amazing content. Behind the curtain, we needed as much room as we could to fit all the technology and mounting hardware as possible. So we created back access, side access, vents, AC, audio, and lighting. Here are a couple of the final production renders. There's a ton of technology that goes into this piece. And safe to say, it's not your weekend web dev project. It includes all kinds of hardware protocols, graphics processing, software platforms, modeling software, render engines, audio workstations, and output devices to make this all happen. Everybody played a really important role on this project, and it was mine to integrate all of them. So how do you get all of these systems talking to each other? Well, I leaned on a piece of software called Touch Designer. Touch Designer is a node-based new media system programming language. It's great because it's super modular, super flexible, and it speaks to a ton of different protocols, file types, and media types. Our hardware interfacing, like the button panels on the elevator, use Arduino, which communicate via serial to Touch Designer. To communicate with the internet, Touch Designer uses a WebSockets protocol. On top of that, there's Python code injection, so you can write whatever script you wanted to talk to different APIs or use other libraries. Touch Designer is powered by NVIDIA Quadro cards, which are super beefy GPUs that we need to do all this graphics processing and synchronize all of these pieces of HD content. A little bit about the video output specifically. Here's a proof of concept prototype that we use to project on 3 walls, 270 degrees. Shipping containers are a tight space, so we use ultra short throw projectors from Vava, which have 4K output and 60 frames per second. At the end of the day, we're pushing a ton of pixels. With the elevators combined, we're moving about 5 gigabytes a second with a total file weight of 95.6 gigabytes. The whole canvas put together is about 11 megapixels, 11,728 by 5,136 pixels. And each elevator has multi-channel audio output. Obviously, we need some real horsepower to make all of this stuff work. Each elevator is powered by its own computer with an Intel 12-core i9, the Quadro RTX 5000, a whole lot of RAM, and some really fast SSDs so we can push out all that video content at once. The experience doesn't start and stop with the physical installation. NGINX was a huge part of empowering this platform, and we utilized it by collaborating with developers and Kevin Jones, who helped us integrate different NGINX services to make this thing run. Kevin can explain the details there.
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Jones, Senior Product Manager at NGINX. Thanks Ben for that introduction. I'm really excited today to talk to you about the now arriving art installation and how the NGINX technology works with this art installation. You may have seen me online on YouTube under NGINX, or you may have seen me on the nginx.com website where I talk a lot about the architectures of various integrations with NGINX. If you haven't and you want to learn more, that's a good resource to learn more about NGINX. But I'm really excited today because we're talking about a very unique architecture and a unique implementation that actually uses the art installation almost somewhat as an IoT device and uses React.js, WebSocket technology, HTTPS, and NGINX Plus. We chose React because it's fast, scalable, and easy to use, a lot like NGINX. And we chose using WebSockets because Touch Designer has built-in WebSocket support where you can actually do bidirectional full duplex TCP connections. And this is really ideal for a continuous data stream where you want to open that connection and send multiple requests through the same channel. We also are using NGINX Plus to utilize some of the major functionality that really helps the application work really well. One is the NGINX Plus Key Value Store API. This Key Value API is basically a key and a value store where you can access it over HTTP. It's got a JSON-based structure, and you can simply update that key value store to make changes to state or basically make rules and regulations on who or what can access your application through NGINX. We also added the support for GeoIP address lookup, so we can actually identify where the user is coming from, look up their IP address, and determine if they're even in the city where they can actually get access to this web application. So this allows us to really control who and what can access the art installation at any certain time. We also set up rate limiting, denial of service protection, so that we can ensure that no one will bring this web application down in the result of a denial of service attempt. NGINX will be able to handle and restrict that access for those attackers. We also set up access control for administration and access of the API. And then we also set up SSL authentication as well. So essentially, any calls to the API need to use TLS, an SSL-based TLS connection to be able to authenticate and access that API. So we hosted this all in Amazon in EC2 on AWS. Again, we chose React.js because it is fast and scalable, and NGINX can serve it as a static application. And then we leverage the NGINX Plus key value API to keep track of state. And I'm going to show you what that looks like for the actual user flow. And then we use NGINX Plus native functionality like the GUIP address lookup, the rate limiting, the TLS authentication, the access control, which really gives us control on who and what can access the application again. So users are connecting when they walk up to the installation. Essentially what they're doing is they're scanning a QR code that has to be validated from NGINX to make sure that it's a valid session. And then Touch Designer can initiate application connection to the application that's sitting in Amazon, and it can give that user a unique experience based on the fact that they've authenticated locally to the art installation. And so you can see here in the architecture, there's, and you don't have to get too much into all this, but the idea is that there's multiple areas where the Touch Designer application and NGINX and the web application are working together to decide what kind of unique experience that the user is going to get as they go through the web application. So I hope this is useful to understand the overall architecture, and we're going to go back to Ben here to finish it up and tell us a little bit more.
So basically, a QR code inside of the elevator is going to give each viewer a special access powered by NGINX. The website will talk to the physical installation using WebSockets, and the experience will be triggered from there. It's been incredible creating this new technology and putting it together for a real impactful experience. Now Arriving will be on tour in select cities, and we hope you can check it out. Head to the Sprint website and click Now Arriving on the top banner to learn more about the installation. Also, submit your own idea. How can you use technology to bring light back to your community? Submit your ideas, and NGINX Community Project will select a few winners to bring those ideas to life. Thank you, F5 and NGINX, for letting me share the project and opportunity. I hope each of you can see Now Arriving if it comes to your city, and I hope you have a great sprint. Thanks, everyone.